All right, hello everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Geek Garage podcast. I'm your host, David Dassaw, as per usual, and joined with me, as per usual, also is my co-host, Ted White. How are you doing, good sir?
I'm doing well, David. Thank you for asking.
Well, you sound nice and sexy today. That's not I'm not putting a hit out on you. I'm just saying that because you have a sort of kind of brand spanking new microphone.
It's new to me, baby.
Yeah. We had a little bit of crackling audio in the bonus episode that we recorded not too long ago, and we had to do something about that. So
Yes.
it's
As it turns out, if you don't take care of your equipment and throw it around in your desk when you're not using it, it does not hold up well.
eh, so I've heard, and so we've seen from uh, historical instances. Anyways, so today we are carrying on our Informal Paranormal series with part 3, which is Ocean Mysteries and Conspiracies. That's right. Uh, the ocean. Short story, it's scary as fuck, and you
Yeah.
should never go there.
Basically, yeah. Yeah. That is accurate.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, if you wanted to just get a brief recap of, or a brief overlook at what this episode is all about, and then, like, turn off the podcast and go do something else, which we would not blame you for at all.
Mhm.
That would be the takeaway here is that,
Yes.
yeah, the
Ocean,
ocean.
scary AF.
Mhm.
Also fish pee there. So kind of gross.
Yeah, they do.
Also.
But, what do you gotta, you gotta go somewhere and sometime, right? I mean,
That's actually how the first human evolved from fish. He was like, I'm sick of floating around in all this fucking piss. I'm growing legs. Getting the fuck out of here. And the other fish
right.
were like, "What the fuck are legs?" Except they're underwater, so it came out like or so I don't know, but
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what happened.
that is. I talked to God about it. He told me.
Right. Darwin jotted it down in his
Yes,
journal.
that was in the first draft of the Origin of the Species.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, we're going to talk about all the crazy conspiracies and mysteries surrounding the big old body of water that surrounds us everywhere. Um, we're obviously going to hit on the main stuff that a lot of people have heard of, and some that I'm sure you haven't heard of because uh, there's definitely stuff in here that was new to me when we started our research.
And that's right.
So
We actually did research for this episode.
I know it's crazy.
It is.
So
This is
so
a
we
possible first.
right. So we hope this is a true form of infotainment for you all, that you are entertained and informed, hopefully. If not, then, it's not our fault. You chose to listen to this. So,
Exactly. We never forced you to. Nobody put a gun to your head. And if they did, you can't prove that we paid them to. So we're in the clear no matter what.
right. Also, what a weirdo. Like, who
Yeah.
would do that? Like, listen to this subpar podcast.
I'm telling you, man, my ultimate goal is to get this podcast used as torture.
I
Excuse me,
mean,
enhanced interrogation techniques. I'm sorry, I forgot to use the proper terminology.
sure. So, before we get into our topic at hand this episode, we just have a quick shout out to throw out there. And it is to our newest Patreon donor, Miss Steph Jane. And she reached out to me when several weeks back when I asked for ghost stories, and she gave me one, and she started listening to the podcast on a regular basis and decided to become a Patreon donor. So, Steph, thank you so much for your support and your donation.
And your
And
badass two first names.
yes, right. That was something that we talked about on the
Yeah,
bonus episode that
yeah.
was exclusive to patrons. That, yeah,
Now
having
that
two.
joke isn't exclusive to patrons, so you're welcome, peons.
Right.
Don't
You're
say I never
welcome.
gave you nothing.
Right. You're welcome, normies.
Right, you pores.
What is this? Some kind of poor speak that I don't understand? But yes, if you would like to join Steph and all the others in getting awesome bonus content and a cool button and sticker set and behind the scenes looks and updates on a weekly basis, then head on over to our Patreon page. We'll put a link below in the podcast description. We have a couple different tiers, so you can check them out. But definitely look up that. Also, leave us a rating and review if you enjoy the podcast. That would be super dope. But yeah, Ted, you ready to get the ball rolling on some ocean mysteries and conspiracies?
Yes.
I'm a little concerned that it took you a minute to answer, but
Well, the ocean's scary as fuck. I had to make sure I was up to it.
I mean, we are safe on land.
That is true.
So,
That is, well, we're on land. I don't know
for
how safe we are, but we're on land.
touche. Yeah, touche. All right. Well, we're gonna hit the music and get this shit show on the road.
Okay, so David, we have established that the ocean is in fact scary as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No good.
But let's throw out some other quick facts. Other than it's scary and you shouldn't go in there. Don't fuck with water.
Yeah. I mean, because water will fuck you back.
Yeah, and not
I
even in
mean,
that fun way like you like with the choking and the weird dirty shit. But
yeah.
yeah. So 70% approximately of the Earth's surface is below the ocean, David.
Yeah. It's a lot.
That's fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
Really, really
Makes.
terrifying. That's even more terrifying when you consider that 95% of that unexplored.
Mm-hmm.
So a giant chunk of our world, the only world we have, we don't know dick about. We don't even know what it looks like. That's fucked up,
Right.
right? We've been to the moon, David. All right, we know what the moon looks like, but, 5 miles off the coast of Houston is a fucking wasteland that we know nothing about. That weirds me out, man.
Right. Like, what's the that cliched saying that's not even so cliched? Like, we know more about the surface of Mars or the surface of the moon than we do
Yeah,
about the the ocean
yeah,
ocean floor or
that's
whatever.
true. Like, we know more about
Yeah.
space than we do about the ocean, which is cool in a way, but also kind of backwards, right?
And to bring it back around, fucking terrifying.
Yeah, the unknown is scary. That's a deeply human thing.
Hmm.
The Mariana Trench over there in the Pacific Ocean,
Hmm.
right off the coast of Guam, between Guam and the Philippines, that has the deepest point on Earth. It's like 7.7 miles deep. And you think to
Hmm.
yourself, that's not that far. 8 miles, not even 8 miles. That's not that far. There's a grocery store to you closer than that. There's like 14 McDonald's within an 8 mile range of you right now.
Right.
It gets a little crazier when you think that that's like 1.25 times longer or deeper than Mount Everest is tall.
Right. Yeah. It's basically like a billion, not a billion, but several Titanics stacked.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's more than that. Like, because what did you say?
It's like it's
30.
35, almost 36,000 feet deep at its
Yeah.
deepest point.
Um. Yeah, I think the one of the factoids that I found that I forgot to write down in the notes is that like Mount Everest can be uh the foot of Mount Everest can be at the foot of the Mariana Trench, and to the peak of Mount Everest, there between that and the ocean surface, there would still be like 7,000 feet left.
Yeah, that's a little cray cray. I don't know if the kids
Um,
still say that, but I'm bringing it back.
yeah, it's appropriate in this instance because it is, and I've seen some of the fish that come out of that area, and I would not fuck with those fish.
Yeah, no, I would not either. I definitely would not.
Yeah,
Excuse me. Edit that cough out. It makes me sound weak.
shit speak.
Speaking of Mount Everest, to keep going with that analogy, thousands, literal thousands of people have climbed that mountain. Some of
Hmm.
them more than once. 3 people have explored the deepest point of the ocean. And what's interesting to me is one of them is the director James Cameron,
Right.
who is basically my actual hero because, like, If there's a dude living a better life than him, I want to meet him because he gets to make movies that make a shitload of money, and then he gets to spend all that money he makes doing ridiculous shit like going to the bottom of the ocean, which that is like the ultimate flex. I want that in life. I don't know, man. Like, you can have
Right.
all your opulent wealth and all that. That's cool. I don't want that. I just want to have enough money to go to the bottom of the ocean and take a picture of me doing the DX crotch chop.
If you ain't down with the bottom of the ocean,
Right,
I got
right.
two words for you.
Like, I want to be able to crotch chop one of those weird fish that lives at the bottom of the ocean. I can die immediately after. I don't care. In fact, I want
Right.
to because I want to go out on top at the
just
bottom of the
crotch,
ocean.
just randomly crotch chop like an angler fish or some
Yes, and
shit.
then die. I don't care. What else do I got? I don't. That's all I need. That's it, baby.
Right. Yeah. Die in the name of angler. Um,
I don't know how
I
we
don't
got off
know.
on that weird crotch chop a fish and die tangent, but it happens.
I
That's
I
why
don't
you
know.
keep listening to us on the Geek Garage podcast. It's our weird shit like that.
Yes.
God knows
That's
it ain't the
what
rest
we
of the content.
right. That's what we
Yeah,
bring to the table.
right.
But yeah, and James Cameron, he did that post Titanic, right? Like he basically took
Yeah.
like his
He-
winnings and
well,
was like,
go ahead.
I mean that was basically it. Like I initially I thought it was like for research for the Titanic, but then I was like, well, that doesn't make much sense because that's not the same ocean.
No, so he basically made the film Titanic so that they could go explore the wreckage because up to that point it hadn't really been done, in the
Hmm.
mid '90s. I'm not going to say it hadn't been done at all, but like to the extent that they did it, like the filming that they did around the down ship, like that's basically the reason he did the film. He was like, "Yeah, I want to do that. That sounds dope." He did the Marianas Trench just 8 or 10 years ago, I think, around 2010 or 2012. I want to say. I could be very wrong. I think I read
Yeah,
that somewhere.
no, that sounds right. I want to say that when I heard about it initially and then like forgot about it, like it wasn't that long ago, like within the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, like I said, I think he just did it as a flex.
Right, just
You know,
god tier flex, throwing it
a
out there.
god tier flex. You are correct, sir.
Yeah,
Um, so we say all that about the ocean being deep and scary to really preface this thought, which is basically all the conspiracies about the ocean. They're kind of believable, right? Because we don't know.
right. Yeah,
They require the least suspension of disbelief.
yeah. Like Ted, like you said, with the ocean, there's just so much shit that like we don't fucking know about that you could be like, yeah, there's a place between Bermuda and Miami and this other place that like sucks in airplanes and ships and never to be seen again. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Sorry about your luck. That's just the way it is.
Yeah,
Scary shit.
yeah. I really cannot stress enough. The ocean is fucking terrifying. If that's the only thing you take away from this podcast, take that. Actually, no,
Right.
take away me crotch chopping an anglerfish. But the second thing you should take away is that the ocean's scary as fuck.
Yeah. Those two things.
Yes, in that order, I should add.
Right.
Before we get started with some of the conspiracies and mysteries and all of that, a quick reminder that, like with the rest of the episodes in this series, we're only going to scratch the surface. That's not a pun.
I was about to say, like, no pun intended.
No, we're gonna dive deep.
Yeah,
Dive deep.
that's another
Eh?
one.
That was a pun. Bitch,
Yeah,
get on my
good.
level. So don't get mad when we don't talk about your favorite weirdo conspiracy. Okay?
Yeah, we
Because
also. Sorry, Ted. Go ahead.
I was gonna say because we don't care what your favorite conspiracy
Oh,
is.
sure. Well, I mean, Ted may not care. I on the other hand, kind of care because I'm the one who does like the Facebook polls and stuff, which kind of reminds me. Thank you so much to everyone who has like participated in all the polls and has given us feedback and told us how much they've been enjoying the Informal Paranormal series. Like, we really appreciate the feedback. Like, it lets us know that we're doing things. Um, I don't know if right is the correct word, but we're putting out content that some people want to listen to, which is, you know, good every once in a while, right, Ted?
Sure. Your opinions mean nothing to me. I cannot stress that enough. I just cannot stress that enough, listeners. Thanks,
Uh,
though, for everything. Let's get cracking. That is also fun,
ha
David, because our first topic is the giant squid. This one is one of my favorites because it's real.
uh, more or less, yes.
Yeah. Now, obviously, the idea of the Kraken from like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and, you
Pirates
know,
of the Caribbean.
Yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean. That's not what I was going for. I was the Clash of the Titans.
Oh yeah.
Those films. Not real, but the giant squid is,
Hmm.
which is cool because that's one thing that we basically willed into existence.
Right. We're
Yeah,
like, we really hope this is real. And then like 10 years later, after like science and research, we're like, fuck, it's real.
yeah. Um, you know, this is one of those things to me, and there's a couple on this list where I'm sure that some fishermen at some point in history, probably several of them, saw these and were just
Mhm.
like, "What in the fuck?" Because they had no frame of reference, right? Like they had
Right.
no idea what it was. And like all fish stories, it went from like it was 30 feet long to it was 50 feet long to it was a giant with 100 arms and breathed fire, you know, underwater, which is
Right.
impressive. I would like to add.
It was
Um,
the Call of Cthulhu.
um, but I don't know. It's just cool that in the early to mid 2000s, we actually got footage of them.
Right.
Now that
Yeah.
said, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, tack on top of that, like, uh, I mean, there's still plenty that we don't know about, giant squids, and I
Right.
also like just tangentially related. I love the fact that the accepted nomenclature is giant squid.
Yeah, yeah. All the good names were taken by the time we discovered this, so they were like, "It's a really big squid. Let's call it that."
Right.
Very
Uh,
creative science. Thank you.
yeah. And Ted, you kind of touched on this, that how like they've kind of been elusive, since we kind of first discovered them, several centuries ago. And so it's been difficult to study them. So it's still relatively, there's a lot of unknowns when it comes to squid, like how big they get, which I don't know if there's like a recorded size. I think it's about 44 or 45 feet, like the longest one that they found, which is pretty fucking long.
Mhm.
But I think a few scientists and marine biologists have estimated that like there could be some out there as big as 66 feet, and
Yeah,
they could live like if they live long enough to get to like their longest length, they could be like over 90 feet, which
which
is
that's fucking crazy.
fucking insanity. Like how big is 90 feet? Like, I mean, if we were to put it in a frame of reference that we can all understand, like how big is a school bus?
I, why would I know that, David? I know a semi truck or trailer is 53 feet.
Okay.
So we've all seen a semi truck on the side of the road
Oh my
or
god.
driving down the road.
So like two of those
Basically,
basically.
almost two of those. Yeah,
Just like
in the
never
water,
going
just
never
fucking
going.
around about in the water.
I
This is
mean,
why we keep telling you the ocean is a fucking trip, bro.
yeah, it's something else, man. But no, like other unknowns include like, how long they live. Well, we don't have a great idea about that. Like how and where they find their well, they find their partners in the ocean, duh. But
Well, we know
how
that
they
part at least.
right? That's kind of a given, I think, unless they like
Some kinky
grow.
motherfuckers out there diving. I don't know, but
Right. What if they could like take their tentacles and like dance up on the sands on
this is
beaches?
getting way too hentai right now. I can't. I cannot.
Just like
In
people
the interest of
running.
my sanity, we are moving forward.
Okay. Yeah, where they lay their eggs, how they migrate, etc. Like, there's just still a bunch of unknowns about them that just add to the insanity and terror of it all. But they do. I mean, if you've seen any videos, and if you haven't, I urge you to just go check on YouTube for giant squid videos because they are out there. They're pretty fucking majestic. Like they seem relatively innocuous and not super dangerous. Of course, we don't know to the full extent how dangerous, but it seems like they're pretty chill, you know,
Yeah.
uh, unless they're busy swallowing a pirate ship whole. All right, Ted. So next up, we got some strange sounds, and this was kind of an odd one because when I just started googling like crazy ocean shit. That's actually what I typed in. It was crazy
Google
ocean
returned
shit.
everything.
Yeah, it was like, fam. I hope you got your socks on because I'm about to blow them off.
How much time you got, Broham?
I got 5,000 page results. Um, but yeah, so apparently, Strange Sounds is a very popular um, ocean mystery and conspiracy that pops up if you decide to do some ocean conspiracy research. It kind of it interests me, but it also like it confused me because like it's the ocean, so of course there's going to be strange fucking sounds. But
Yeah. It kind of begs the question, what do you mean by strange sounds?
exactly. Like what after trying to think about it a couple different ways, what I ended up assuming was that like they were strange in comparison to what like scientists and marine biologists have already heard and been able to put a an animal or a thing to that sound. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like two of the big ones that I found are the bloop and Julia, which I think it's called Julia because if you listen closely, like it sounds like a prolonged like, you know, bloop bloop bloop, but also sounds like someone saying the word Julia.
Hmm.
And the bloop is literally like a bloop. It's, you know, not very long, but
Yeah. I've heard of the bloop.
yeah.
I'm not familiar with Julia, at least it being called that. The bloop is really, I think I don't know if they proved it, but I think that's pretty much been accepted that it was an iceberg uh,
Yeah.
breaking apart and falling.
Right. Yeah. But I think for a very long period of time before they were able to, you know, kind of conclusively say that that's what it was, there was, um, there was a lot of talk about it being like a giant squid or some animal that we haven't discovered yet that's making this sound. I guess an animal that they hadn't been able to identify a sound for yet.
Yeah, I always get this one confused. There's another iceberg phenomenon where um, they picked up on sonar something moving across the ocean floor at some ridiculous speed that was like 2 times the size of the Empire State Building.
Oh my
And I
god.
always get that confused with the bloop because one of them was like right in the vicinity of where um, Cthulhu's sleeping place is in the Lovecraft mythos,
Sure.
which I think is just like one of life's funny ironies. So, um, and I can't remember which one it is. I think it's the blue, but I could be wrong. I think that's funny. You know, that proves that the universe has a sense of humor.
Right. Yeah. We don't have a whole lot of notes on the strange sounds, but it was something that came up quite often in our research. So we wanted to at least address it,
Sure, sure.
uh, you know, briefly at the very least. So apparently, missing submarines is uh, a thing, which is kind of creepy. Like,
Yeah, a lot of missing ships of
right.
different sorts, submarines in this case, but you know, standard ships as well.
Yeah. But in 1968, four different submarines went missing, and not from like one place, like from around the world. So, like, the first one was USS Scorpion. The second was a Soviet submarine, the K 129. There was a French submarine called the Minerve. I think that's how it's pronounced, and the INS Dakar. I believe that's how that's pronounced as well. Um, but the last two submarines, they disappeared only 4 days apart, which is kind of fucking nuts. And the Minerve still has not been found, even though it only disappeared like an hour after it departed from its port. So that's crazy as well. We didn't find a whole lot of information regarding the missing submarines, but once again, like the strange sounds, it was one of those things that kind of repeatedly came up, so we wanted to address it. Ted, I don't know, you got any thoughts on this?
Well, some of these are pretty easily explained. For example, scorpions can't swim, so I don't know why that's a big shocker that that motherfucker sank. So
Yeah, something tells me that's not the same thing.
I have been informed that that is in fact not the same thing. So this is awkward and embarrassing for me now. We're gonna move along and pretend this never happened.
All
Like I
right,
said, there have been a lot of weird shipwrecks and disappearing ships and things like that. So it's not just submarines; they don't get all the fun, such
right,
as it is. Um, there is, of course, the cursed shipwreck from the Gulf of Mexico,
right.
discovered by ExxonMobil.
Yeah, this is
Weirdly enough,
actually right. This is actually a relatively recent one too.
yeah, this happened in 2001. ExxonMobil was laying pipe, not a euphemism, uh, and accidentally cut the fucking ship in half. So dick move, ExxonMobil, for many other things as well. But
Right.
um,
Thanks, BP.
some marine archaeologists at Texas A&M University saw this as a good opportunity to use some of that money that they have and use some undersea technology to uncover a bit of history.
Mhm.
They got some robotic submarines and threw them bitches in the water, which is the technical term, I understand.
Yes, that's what they wrote in their theses.
Yes, in their various doctoral papers. Uh,
Right.
they wrote,
Threw
and I
them
quote,
bitches in the water.
threw them bitches in the water. Uh, with robotic submarines, they were able to dive thousands of feet and find and see the treasures of shipwrecks, which were now within their reach. Coordinating scientist Brett A. can't pronounce his last name, stated
I,
there's bad voodoo out there. Everything that can go wrong has. Which basically means that everything that went awry would take too long to go over. So uh, just imagine the worst day you've ever had in the
yeah,
water with robots.
yeah, it's literally that sequence from The Sandlot where that dipshit kid who didn't know who Babe Ruth was took his dad's ball and decided that it was a good idea to play baseball with it, and then they had to go get it back once that the one kid that was really good at pee wee baseball hit it over the fence, and they had to get it back from the dog, and so that took up like 3/4 of the movie. um it was basically that, like, they they first went down with like a their robotic summer okay, no one went down. It was like an actual robot, so no one was in it. And um they they like lost sonar and they lost video footage, so they were basically like going at it blind, and they were trying to peel off like a copper plate off the side of the ship, because that would kind of tell them exactly when the ship sank, because depending on, like, I think I read how the holes were either nailed or drilled through the copper to the ship, that kind of tells you what tools they were working with, hence what time period. It is pretty interesting stuff. But anyways, that's kind of what they were trying to do, is date the ship and find a little bit of history about it, and also use their fancy but also kind of not so fancy and well working um, materials, because yeah, shit just went bad, like everything broke. uh like, to this day, like Ted said, this was back in 2001. They have made several attempts um to go get footage of this ship or get pieces of it to bring it up to the shore to study it. And the fucking ghosts from that ship are just like, nah, fam, you ain't getting this shit.
I
Like,
did not sink and drown in the fucking ocean for some dickhead professor to come steal this gold that we probably stole from someone else. All right.
right,
We stole it fair and square. Fuck you. Basically, future people is what I'm getting out of this.
right. Like, fuck your tenured professor ass. Like, get out of
Oh,
my
I went
face.
to the Ivy League. Fuck you. That's what I'm getting.
I went to Texas A&M.
that's,
Ooh.
that's not the Ivy League at all. I don't know why I said that.
I mean, I've heard that sometimes they play decent football. I don't follow uh, college football, but anyways,
That was
moving
our one sports reference per year that we're allowed here at the Geek Garage podcast. Thank you for
right.
wasting it, David.
Yes.
Another famous or infamous ghost ship, the Mary Celeste. This was found in 1872 off the coast of Portugal. And you're thinking to yourself, a ship off the coast of Portugal? That's not weird, Ted. You're doing this wrong. Well, no, listener who I just made up, you're wrong. This ship was discovered without a crew aboard, which is kind of weird because ships need those, I'm told.
Typically.
Yeah. Everything was in place except the crew, and no foul play was suspected as a result. The only thing missing was a lifeboat, a single lifeboat. Now, this was a relatively small ship, and the crew was only, I think, 5 or 6 people, plus the captain and his wife. So we're talking, 7 to 8 people tops,
Hmm.
who could have all realistically fit into a single lifeboat. But nobody knows why they just abandoned ship, because it wasn't on fire. There was no like crazy damage found on the ship, One explanation is that part of the cargo contained alcohol, and it was 9 barrels, I think, and they found 3 of them empty. They had leaked out. So they think that perhaps everybody abandoned ship thinking that maybe that would combust. And, obviously a ship in 1872, probably primarily, if not completely made out of wood, would go up like a tinderbox.
Yeah.
Or possibly because it was giving off a really bad, like, noxious type of fume.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But they were never found. The lifeboat was never found, and none of the people were ever seen again. Now, keep in mind, this is the 1870s, so it would have been fairly easy to just go to a new place and be like, I'm Steve. I have always been Steve. That is who I am and have been. So I can't, just because they were quote unquote never seen again, that doesn't mean they were actually never seen again. It just means that they were never found by people who were looking for them. So, cool story, but doesn't necessarily have the weird ending that everybody wants it to.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe they all just became Steves. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Well, except the wife. I guess she could have. Well, I mean, she wanted to be a Steve too. Fuck it. Everybody can be Steve.
yeah. Everyone is Steve. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. That must have been nice. Like back then, just be like, you know what? Fuck my old life. Like I'm gonna walk 10 blocks in this direction and be someone completely different.
Right.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, I want to be Steve. I'm tired of being Ted. That guy sucks.
Yeah, I heard he cross-checked an anglerfish or whatever the fuck.
Cross jumped.
I
That guy's an
remember.
asshole.
I never knew that was the name of that motion where you
What
make
else would it
two
be,
X's.
David? You're chopping at your crotch. I don't understand.
Oh, you say crotch chop. I thought you said cross chopping.
What?
I don't
Damn it.
you know I'm deaf.
Among other things.
You mean like stupid?
Your words.
Yeah, correct.
Anyway, the point of the story is Davy Jones and the Flying Dutchman, both very real things. Because
Right.
again, the ocean, scary AF.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that they came up and took them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next on our list we have kind of around a similar time period, the mid 1800s. This is a sea serpent that has actually reportedly been spotted a few times, but this is the first and probably the most notable. And it is the HMS Daedalus Sea Serpent. Is one of the other things that popped up quite a few times in our research. But like I said, it was first spotted in 1848, and it's some possible explanations could have been just a whale below the surface, or some other giant like fish, like an oarfish, or something that resembles a giant serpent. Like, it was 1848, kind of like what Ted was saying earlier. Like, back then, the sea was, a lot of people traveled by sea, but things were still relatively new. People were seeing things for the very first time. And so, like, they didn't know things like squid and uh, other crazy shit that we know now, that we're just now beginning to wrap our heads around. So who knows what the fuck it actually was? Maybe it was a sea serpent. You know,
Maybe.
the ocean is a scary place, so
Yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me if it was.
Yeah. I'm not a marine biologist. I didn't even stay at a Holiday Inn last night, but I
What?
think it was probably a giant oarfish because those really do kind of look like big ass serpents. If
Yeah.
just Google the giant oarfish. They look like, or maybe giant eels more than serpents, I guess, because
Hmm.
they look similar but not exact. Like eels are a little different shape than serpents are, but oarfish look like giant eels to me. So I
Yeah.
think it would be pretty easy to be a sailor in the middle 19th century, probably drunk and stupid, and being like, "That's a big fucking snake down there in the water,"
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. It's got the head of a dragon.
it breathes fire, man.
Yeah.
Drugs are bad. 19th century drugs are worst of all. It's all skunk weed. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean
Everyone
that's
was eating mushrooms.
yeah, yes, that is history's greatest mystery solved by dudes eating mushrooms.
So, blue whales. This is kind of similar to giant squid, in the sense that, so, like, blue whales, I think, are a little less elusive than squid. Like,
Yes, that's
we
because blue whales are the size of planets, so
exactly,
a little
like,
harder for them to hide out.
right, like, they're fucking gigantic. Like, blue whales, like, that's established. That's the largest mammal on the planet, right? It
They are believed to be the largest animal that has ever inhabited Earth, I believe.
Right. Yeah. They're fucking gigantic.
Other than your mom. Oh!
Oh!
Sorry, I
We
couldn't.
actually we actually had another "your mom" joke typed into our notes earlier on, but we forgot to stun it out there.
Yeah, so
Um,
we had to really double up on that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I love whales, man.
They're fucking awesome. Like,
Yeah.
especially blue whales. Like, I see a video. If I even get wind of some video of a blue whale, I literally have to stop everything I'm doing and go look at it, because they're so fucking majestic.
Yeah.
Right.
Um, Whales are really like they're fascinating to me because um, not only are they just ridiculously large, which in and of itself is cool. Like their heart valves are so big a grown man can walk through them.
Hmm.
That's insanity to me.
Yeah.
Um, they're just really fascinating creatures for a variety of reasons like that. But like they sing to one another. That said, there's still a lot of stuff that we don't know about blue whales because they
Right.
reproduce very slowly.
Hmm.
And despite being majestic as fuck, they're actually very shy.
Yeah. Like, yeah, there's all kinds of video footage of, like, helicopters and drone, mostly helicopters, um, that are flying up above and getting those, like, really super beautiful overhead shots. Um, but they're only for like a minute or two, and then the whales will just do a deep dive. Um, and so that's proven to make things super difficult for people like scientists and marine biologists to learn more about them. So,
I mean, to be
y-
fair, from the whale's perspective, that's basically paparazzi. So
right, how
I kind of
rude.
get it.
Yeah. Like, rude. I'm just trying to, like, get my fuck on over here with this other giant blue Betty, and
Yeah. I'm trying to
yeah.
get my fuck on Blue Whale 2020.
Right, and you're a whale dick blocking me.
Right.
Right, you're chop blocking, cross
Crotch
checking,
chopping me, crotch chop
crotch.
blocking me. None of this matters. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah. So unfortunately, we don't really know that much about them, which is sad because they're all gonna fucking die because humans are goddamn garbage bastard people.
yeah. Thankfully, they. I don't know when this happened. It seemed like it was relatively recently, within the last maybe 10, 15 years. They really started cracking down on, whale meat. I don't know if it was a huge consumer product here in the West, but I know in the East for what things like sushi and stuff, right, Ted?
So I'm not familiar with whale sushi. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. But I mean, whales have historically had a lot of uses for different products, like blubber and whale oil were
Right.
big commodities at one point. Um, Ambergrease is another big thing that's used in a lot of perfumes and
Mm,
some other things as well. So there's been markets. There have been markets, I should say, for whales. But yeah, I think along with sharks, I think a lot of cracking down, so to speak, has been done on some of those practices so that they're not basically hunted to extinction.
right. Yeah. And I mean, if that's the reason or one of the reasons why blue whales are shy, then yeah, I get it. If I'd barely poke my head above water too, if, the white man was always trying to get me.
Right, the honkies. Uh,
Right.
I don't even talk to my neighbors, and they live like close to me. If some fucking alien came down in a spaceship to take pictures of me, I would probably shoot at the bird and crotch chop it because that's what I'm on today. So I get it. I get why they're shy.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, moving on, we got one more animal to cover, and that is the fucking cannibal shark.
Yes. Well, potential cannibal shark,
Yeah, at least we think so.
maybe.
And I guess that would be good news for us, right? Because less people eating, maybe.
Well, I mean, sharks are scary enough.
Uh huh.
I feel like a cannibal shark is scarier.
If it eats sharks and people, like, yeah, for sure.
It's got the taste of shark meat. It's unstoppable now. Uh, this is just a really weird and interesting story to me. So in 2003, scientists put a GPS tag on a 9-foot great white shark. That's
Hmm.
just part of their normal studying routine of great white sharks, right? Is they tag it so they can track its movements and what it's doing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it also lets them look at other like oceanic patterns and whatnot.
Exactly, exactly. So while they're tracking it, the GPS tag suddenly showed a dive of 1,900 feet or so, done in seconds, which is, I mean, 1,900 feet is nothing to sneeze at in a rapid time.
Right.
And you think to yourself, well, it's a shark. Sharks swim in the ocean. That's not that crazy. Well, the crazy thing is that you would expect it to get colder as the shark dove down because, like,
Hmm.
there's less sunlight. The ocean gets colder as, the deeper it goes. But the
Right.
temperature reading actually went up by about 20 degrees.
Wow.
So the only viable explanation that anybody could come up with is that something ate their shark, but they didn't know what. Because again, we're morons and don't know shit about the ocean.
Yeah. I mean, is there a bigger animal out? Well, of course, there's a bigger, sea animal that could eat a shark. I'm wondering why they're assuming that it would be another shark, or maybe not assuming, but like, uh, you know, assume or guessing. I don't know.
Hmm.
That's
It's
just
kind of
that's interesting to me.
Yeah, it's kind of split as to what people think it was. And by split I don't mean like 50-50 or there's a lot of contention. Like I think the most agreed upon explanation is it was probably a sperm whale. Sperm whales are larger than that and have been known to eat and attack sharks,
Right.
similar to orcas,
And
which are
squid.
also badass. Whales fucking rule, basically, is the thesis for this episode.
Right.
One of many I'm learning. um, but again, I mean, that's not certain. You know,
Right.
that's just their best guess or most educated guess, you might say. So we can't rule out the possibility of monster shark, just like we can't rule out the possibility of giant squid, just like we can't rule out the possibility of your mom.
Exactly. She could be a sea dweller too.
Yeah.
She could be a crotch chopping anglerfish.
That's actually how she subsists. The heat from the crotch chop is what keeps her alive.
Yes, it goes down at like Dragon Ball Z speeds, where it's like, "Ah!" And by the time the hands are like next to the crotch, like the crotch is like, ah, and
It's
like,
basically the force of a nuclear explosion every crotch chop.
right, the fire of 1,000 suns.
Yes.
Anyway, so we can, if you want, we can move on from the shark
Yes.
and
Let's move away from the crotch chopping mothers. And the shark also, apparently.
I think I'd actually pay my mom $20 if I walked into her house and she was like, "I got 2 words for you, suck it." Like walk in on Thanksgiving and she's like, "You don't like my fried turkey? I got 2 words for you, suck it." Or just like motion to, like everyone in the house, like she prepared it, like all the guests in the house, like all my family members, like screaming, like the audience would from the WWF days, and I'd just be like, "Whoa!" Like Jesus, lightning would come into my body and like electrocute me, and that would just be the end of days.
My new goal in life is to start a YouTube channel uh, of just videos of your mother doing various 90s WWF catchphrases.
Yeah, next time I see her, I'm gonna teach her some. Like,
Oh god, we're gonna be fucking famous, bro, because your mom's gonna be a degenerate.
shit. Okay. Well,
I'm sure she's a
officially,
nice lady. I don't know.
nah, she's a very nice lady. Yes. So, anyways, officially moving on. Um, there are these crazy things called vile vortices, and there are officially 12 of them. 12 on Earth. And if you're not sure what the fuck I'm talking about, the Bermuda Triangle effectively is one of them. It's where shit goes in but doesn't come out. Um, kind of like the opposite of pooping, sort of like pooping. Anyways, um, yeah. So Ted, what do you got about the Bermuda Triangle? Are you scared of this shit?
um, no more than any of the rest of the scary as fuck ocean.
Right, because you'll never go anywhere near it, right? Because you're a smart person.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a land person for sure. Yeah, I don't even get in the tub, bro.
I whatever the opposite of a salt life sticker is for like douchebags on their back of their Jeep Wranglers, like I am the opposite of that.
Okay, all right, we're gonna put a pin. We're gonna circle back to the Bermuda Triangle because you got me. I'm going on a tangent with salt life stickers. If you live in a landlocked state and you have a salt life sticker, it should be legal to punch you in the face.
You can officially get fucked.
Yeah, yeah. I don't care that you like going to the beach. I don't even care that you go you could go to the beach once a week. I don't care. You live in a landlocked fucking state, my guy.
Yeah.
I've seen the lake life stickers, and those are slightly less douche chill inducing
Mm-hmm.
because we have lakes here. I get that. That's fine. But
Right.
if you live in a state that doesn't have salt water, I'm gonna punch you in the dick as hard as I can, and it should be legal. I should be able to do that with immunity.
Yeah, so we found the thing that Ted is passionate about. Aside from Asian cinema
Yes.
and King Kong movies.
My three great loves in life. Monster movies.
Or when I say King Kong, I meant Godzilla.
Yeah, my three great loves in life are monster movies, Asian cinema, and punching salt life sticker having people in the dick.
And cross shopping.
My fourth great love is cross chopping anglerfish at the bottom of the ocean. I'm a modern day Renaissance man, David. I don't know what to say. Back to the Bermuda Triangle. It sounds scary, but once you realize that it's not any more dangerous statistically than any other part of the ocean, all of that sort of conspiracy mythos sort of falls apart.
Yeah, I think this may be the first topic on within ocean mysteries and conspiracies that's really like, I guess, on the conspiracy side and the more paranormal side of things. Like everything else has basically been grounded in mystery, just our lack of knowledge on that. But in that sense, kind of being scary as fuck. But this would like, it started out as one of those like, or not start out, but like it was a long time ago one of those like campfire kind of stories where you sit around like a big group of friends and you talk about shit that like freaks you out and you all get freaked out together. And like Bermuda Triangle was always one of those things that kind of came up in those conversations, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so, you talk about like the stories that pretty much everyone's heard, like ships and planes like going through the area and just disappearing off the fucking map, never to be heard of or seen again. Um, and that all happens like, I don't think it really happens anymore. A lot of the quote unquote reports or whatever you want to call it, they were mostly like in the 60s and 70s, I think. And so they just didn't know as much as we do now, which, like I said earlier, is still not a lot. But we found out things that like the majority of tropical storms in the Atlantic and hurricanes, they pass through Bermuda Triangle. So um, in the days prior to our ability to predict weather, these dangerous storms like just went and grabbed the fucking ships and were like, ah! Yeeted them into the sun. The Gulf Stream can also cause rapid and violent changes in weather. There's some crazy magnetic stuff that goes on in that area because of its what is it? It's has to do with like the North and South Pole and its position to them, I believe. But like a compass's ability to point to like true north versus magnetic north gets all screwy. So you hear a lot of stories, or I read one like right before we started recording of like a uh, a flight, I think it was like called flight 14 or 43, something like that, uh where it was like um a handful of planes that were just going to do a routine exercise and just ended up like their stuff started malfunctioning and stopped working, including their compasses, and just couldn't find their way back home. And then they were never heard of again. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of like ghost sightings or fairy sightings or what have you, where it's like you could graph them in such a way that it's like um their zenith is at the point prior to camera technology, and then their nadir is like camera technology becomes better, and then it's back up when Photoshop becomes a thing, right?
Right.
And I think it's similar here, where it's like before we have things like GPS or like better understandings of meteorology and weather, um, and where we're relying on like the stars and luck basically to
Right.
to guide, where obviously there's a higher chance of being lost at sea if you don't have like GPS technology, for example.
Yeah.
Just as an example, which is not to say that historical sailors were idiots, because obviously they weren't. We circumnavigated the globe
Right.
500 years ago. We as people had a pretty good fucking understanding of how to sail. But at the same time, again, like if you have the benefit of knowing, hey, there's going to be a storm in 3 to 5 days, you're probably not going to sail, meaning you're not going to sink, meaning you're not going to feed into that, loop of the Bermuda Triangle is cursed.
Right. At least some of us will do that.
Yeah, and then there's the dicks out there that are like, I know everything, and Tarzan
And
swing out and get yeeted into the abyss
right, just ruin it for the rest of
by
us.
the ocean, fucking it up for everybody.
Right, just trying to cross chop it to death and ends up getting fucking yeeted.
How do you still not get it?
Yep, I'm doing it on purpose. But yeah, there's like I said, there's 12 different ones, or 12 different vile vortices, across the world. The Devil's Sea is one of them, which apparently it's notorious for just yeeting planes out of the sky. Just come here, bitch, and like like
Get
a
over
hand.
here.
Get over here. Yeah, it's like a hand, a giant god hand just comes out of a
That's actually where
cloud.
the USS Scorpion is. He is over there chilling, doing the get over here to planes over the Devil's Sea.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen Mortal Kombat recently, but the CG in that, in fact, does not hold up
Yeah,
at
no,
all.
I saw that it was on Netflix, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna watch this and eat pizza, and that's exactly what I did. It was a good Friday night. But
Yeah,
no, the movie is bad and the CG is terrible.
yeah. I'm actually, however, super excited about the remake whenever that comes along. No, I was gonna say no more Mortal Kombat um, tangents, but I don't think I can promise that for this
Yeah, I can't
podcast.
hold myself to guarantee that either.
Yeah.
But before we get onto another Mortal Kombat tangent, let's get back to the purpose at hand, which is talking about crazy shit in the ocean. I think probably the most popular and well-known myth about the ocean or the sea, maybe other than the Bermuda Triangle, would be the lost city of Atlantis.
Yeah, I'd say those are top two.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty safe bet. Atlantis has endured for forever, basically for a couple thousand years or close to it
Hmm.
now. But um, I think pretty much everybody knows it. City lost under the water, scary, sad, stuff like that. Um, Widely believed to be conceived of and written by the Greek philosopher Plato. You probably heard of him.
Hmm.
Pretty big deal, that guy.
Yep.
He wrote it in a couple of different works, and there was always a debate of whether or not it was meant to be an allegory or if it was more historical truth.
Sure.
There are literally thousands of conspiracies around Atlantis. We couldn't hope to list them all if we wanted to,
Hmm.
which we don't, because most of them are batshit insane, and not even in that fun way. But some people think, oh, it was in the Mediterranean, it was this, it was that. Some people think that it was Antarctica, and it's a bad translation, which
Hmm.
doesn't even make sense because that's not anywhere close to where Plato said it was located. So if you're using that
Sure.
he wrote about it historically and it's Antarctica, you did something wrong. Anyway, it was an allegory. That's what Plato did. He wrote, and allegories were a thing that he uh, wrote about.
Yeah.
But this one had a little bit of a hint of truth to it.
Hmm.
Um, so it wasn't necessarily a civilization that got lost underwater, so to speak, but it's kind of believed that he wrote about. He fashioned his allegory after the island of Thera, which was a nation just off the coast of Greece, or a small city state, I guess, just off the coast of Greece, that was pretty prosperous, rich and powerful because they had some fairly unique circumstances. They were able to parlay that into wealth. Unfortunately, they were also literally built on top of a volcano. I
Right.
feel like you know where this is going, David.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nowhere good for
No,
them.
nowhere good, in fact. 1620 BC, guess what? Boom goes the dynamite. That volcano
Mhm.
erupts and destroys the city.
Yep. Got wrecked.
Get wrecked, bitch. We know this because there's historical evidence of this. It's like Pompeii after Vesuvius. We have evidence. There's very well preserved evidence that there was a Pompeii, just like, or I'm sorry, there's very well preserved evidence that there was a Thera, just like there's very well preserved evidence of Pompeii.
Hmm.
So a lot of historians believe that Plato fashioned his allegory after this city and then, changed some things around so as to not be too obvious. Still fooling us hundreds of years and several centuries later.
Atlantis, that's, like I said, off air to you, I thought you'd be better suited to cover it because while I knew of it and could maybe say a couple sentences, you definitely have a much clearer understanding of some of the mythos behind it and some conspiracies. So I appreciate you taking the lead on that one. And apparently Japan has a possible Atlantis.
Yes and no. So it's not a story the same as like an allegory by Plato, but in 1986, a diver south of mainland Japan discovered some underwater formations.
Hmm.
Since then, several other divers have gone down and they have tried to do studies of these. Which is granted fairly difficult given that they're underwater. Uh,
Right.
some of the remains that they found, one of them appears to be the remains of a castle. Some of them look like temples. One appears to be a stadium or coliseum of some sort, and then a giant arch.
Hmm.
Um, not an arch in the sense of like a support structure, but like you would think of like the arch in St. Louis or something like that. So like a big, like a monument type thing.
Right.
So that has led some people to speculate that it's maybe a forgotten or lost city. Some people have said that this was a city that was on an island off the coast of mainland Japan that got hit by an earthquake and then, you know, obviously shifted down and is now underwater. Some geologists think that these are just sandstone formations, which can give the appearance of being man-made because sandstone tends to break along straight planes,
Hmm.
um, which can look like it's been machined or designed. That would explain the arch because arches aren't on straight planes, but I mean, nothing's inexplicable in terms of geology. Just because we don't know it doesn't mean it's inexplicable.
Sure. Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know a lot about it. In fact, I've just learned about it today. But I was like, oh, that's cool. Let's throw that in there so the listeners can be like, oh, these guys know what they're talking about. They're smart. We're not. We're morons. We're fucking idiots. I cannot stress that to you enough.
Yeah, I was actually what was it? You said that was the Yonaguni monument. Is yeah, okay. Yeah, that was one of the things I was looking at also right before we started recording, how they were trying to figure out if they were like these like stone steps that led to somewhere or
Yeah,
led down somewhere, or
steps are part of them. Yeah.
right, or if it was just part of the ocean bottom, or tectonic plates pushing up against each other and
Mhm.
creating
And there
the
are some
ocean shit.
markings, right? There are
Yeah,
some markings on some of these, and there've been some debate, like, are these man-made? Like, are they carvings,
right,
or
yeah,
are they just like erosion or things scraping against them that are causing these in more or less random patterns?
yeah. It seems to me that like if you can identify more patterns on these, that definitely strengthens the case for it being a man-made structure, which I would totally believe anyways. Like if you told me to guess which one, like although both are they both seem like things uh, that could happen, I would opt for some sort of forgotten city, which I may be biased because I think that'd be cool as shit. Um, but that's just me.
No, I 100% agree. That would be cool as shit.
So we have one more to go over. Ted, I know you've kind of taken the lead on the last couple, but this was one that you actually added to our notes. So I'm going to let you um, talk a little bit about it.
Right. So, um, I think most of our listeners will probably remember the Fukushima radiation incident or the
Hmm.
Fukushima nuclear disaster from several years ago. It was a very, very big deal, of
Yeah.
course, as any nuclear disaster is. This theory or conspiracy theory kind of takes shape in a post Chernobyl world. Chernobyl, of course, is another nuclear disaster, and we're
Hmm.
still finding, that leaks radiation all over fucking creation. and we're
Yeah.
still finding things that have been affected by that were affected by that radiation that have been changed fundamentally as a result of that.
Right.
Um, and anyway, that leads into the Fukushima radiation theory here that states that nuclear disaster irradiated the entirety of the Pacific Ocean and is continuing to dump around 300 tons of nuclear radiation into the ocean daily, which
Holy
is a
shit.
fucking lot. Um, Obviously, like with any good conspiracy, there's a cover up, because it would mean global panic if that
Hmm.
information got out.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know enough about radiation to even begin to speculate. I just wanted to throw it on here because it's really interesting and um, just kind of strange and unique, I think. So I can't say that it's not a thing, so to speak. I don't think that it's irradiated the entire Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean is fucking big, David. I don't know if you know that.
Yes, it's
Yeah, it's not small.
large indeed. Right.
It is indeed large. That said, there is weird and mutated marine life showing up in strange places inexplicably all over. So it's not just like one little area where they found a bunch of two-headed sharks. It's like all over. So there may be some legs to this one, so to speak.
Right. I see what
Which
you
is
did
funny
there.
because fish don't have legs. Well, they
Yeah.
might now because of the radiation, but
Right.
we don't know
I
for
mean,
sure.
it seems like if this is in fact a thing, it seems like it doesn't bode well for people that eat fish.
Yeah, and I eat a lot of fish, so
Yeah, I don't eat any. Like, I am a strict no seafood person. So, I guess it's a relatively decent time to not be a fish eater. So, go me for once in my life. This is where I come out on top. I cross chop the world. Shit. Okay.
indeed,
Well,
sir. Good for
yeah.
you.
What a great way to wrap up this podcast,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Cross chop the universe. God damn it.
We are now
Fuck.
canceled. I just heard. That's all right. We had a good run.
This just in. Um, but yeah, Ted, do you have any closing thoughts on the ocean mysteries and conspiracies we've covered, other than the ocean's scary and don't go there?
No, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's all I got too. It's a good way to put it. But yeah, as always, if you made it this far, congratulations. And Ted is sorry, and I'm sorry. But thank you so much for your support and um, your listenership. We greatly appreciate it. Yeah, and as always, be kind, stay geeky, and eat lots of cheesecake. Bye.
Yas.